Oh, you're too low down. That's all right. Hello, my name is Roisin and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be reading books that are my mum's favourite books. So nearly 2 months ago now, I think, I went back to my mum's house and we looked at the books on her shelf and she picked out some of her favourites that she had there physically. So this is a limited selection. It's not all of the books that she loved. It's just the ones based on the ones that she still owns. I think several of the books on here are some of her favourites as well. So, and it was also ones that she owned that I hadn't already read. So there's the caveats out of the way. But I interviewed my mum talking about these books. So she's going to tell you what she liked about them. But as you may be able to tell, it is super hot in the UK today. It's like 28 degrees and as you know we can't handle heat, so but today I am going to Herefordshire, to Hereford itself, with my boyfriend. He is working a wedding, and then after that we are going to be going to Wales, to South Wales, to the Gower peninsula, for a few days of holiday, which I'm really excited about because we haven't been anywhere since January. So it's been 6 months, so it will be nice to drive over to South Wales, swim in the sea since it's lovely and hot, hire some bikes, and just have a nice time. So yeah, we're going to get going to there now. I have started reading the Moonstone and Bonfire of the Vanities, so we are getting going, but my boyfriend is like, can you hurry up and pack now please? So I'll talk to you about it when I get to Hereford. Tomorrow, whilst he's working the wedding, I'm going to be wandering around Hereford by myself, so hopefully we'll find something exciting to do there together, me and you, and me.
Hello. So it's the evening now and I don't think I really explained what I was up to today, because I don't really like talking to the camera in public, even filming in public. Oh god, no. Oh no. I just spilled my face oil all over the... oh no. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, even filming in public. I was filming in the cafe earlier and I think the staff noticed me and I felt super awkward about that. So anyway, what did I do today? I got up and went out for breakfast at this cafe called Savoury and Rye, and I followed the Google instructions for it and it took me to this place that I want to show you. It was clearly abandoned, and so I was really confused as to what was going on. But then I noticed across the street the actual Savoury and Rye, so they must have moved premises, and they've not updated their Google address. But I had breakfast there. It was really good. And then I went to this museum, which is called the Black and White House Museum, which is this 17th century house that has been maintained to look like it's still in the 17th century.
Inside the Black and White House Museum, which is a 17th century house that's been like, it's the only one left in Hereford, and it has been like done up to look like it would have probably during the 17th century. There are also some dressing up clothes over there, but I think they're children's, they look small. So yeah, I'm the only person here. It's just gone 12, as you can hear.
And then after that, I went to the cathedral, which is a 12th and 13th century cathedral, I think, in Hereford, obviously. It also has the largest intact medieval world map and a library where the books are chained up, which was cool. And then I read my book on the green around the cathedral for a while. And then I went to the cinema and I saw the new Elvis film, the Baz Luhrmann film about Elvis and his manager. And I didn't know that much about Elvis before the film. I don't know how like accurate it is. I thought that Austin Butler was really good in it, and Tom Hanks was as well. And I love Baz Luhrmann. I love the way he shoots his films. I read a review saying like it's like frantic and overly speedy and really a lot of jump cuts, and I was like, why are you going to see a Baz Luhrmann film if you don't expect it to be like a fever dream or a acid trip? Like, that's how he films things. You don't go to a Quentin Tarantino film and ask why there's so many shots of Uma Thurman's feet and uses of the N-word, do you? So I enjoyed the Elvis film. And then I went to the wedding venue where my boyfriend is working and had some of the food there that was left over in the kitchen. And now I'm back in the Premier Inn where we are staying. And I just kind of feel like I want to have a little nap, but also want to go and see my boyfriend. And like, he's making pizzas in the evening, so maybe I'll eat some pizzas because he's not going to be back for a while. And I don't know. I'm exhausted though. I'm so tired. I don't know why I'm so tired, but I am. I've been reading Bonfire of the Vanities, and I have been enjoying it. It's a weird book. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's very 80s, I think. It's kind of like satirical in the vein of like American Psycho, which I have neither read nor seen. I've just heard so much like people talking about American Psycho that I feel like I get the gist. So there's a lot of like racial commentary, like not racial commentary, but there's a lot of like comments about race that are bigoted. But I feel like it's because it's a satire on those characters, like particularly in terms of like Jewish people. There's a lot of talk about Jews in a way that I'm finding very uncomfortable, but I think it's a commentary on anti-Semitism. I'm not sure. I'm only like 3 chapters in, so I have to go. It's very fast-paced, like loads is happening and like really interestingly written. I think that Tom Wolfe, who wrote it, was a journalist first. So yeah, I'm also started The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, listening to the audiobook of that, and again I'm enjoying that one. It's quite humorous, and again the character, this one's a misogynist, this character of this kind of butler, but it's in a really quite funny way that's like very obviously poking fun at this character for his like foibles and his very like bigoted views and things. Some stuff about these Indian people. It's about this diamond, the Moonstone, that goes missing, and there are these, it's been stolen, which I think is quite an interesting commentary for a 19th century book about the like plunder of the British Empire and the stealing of things that don't belong to them. I think is an interesting thing that's in a book from that time period. Well, it's quite humorous and very, very readable. So I'm barely into either of them. I'm really hoping I can like actually focus on some reading this weekend, but we'll see. I'm not the best at reading when I'm on holiday. Hello, so we are now in Swansea. I'm not sure you can tell because it's still a Premier Inn, so it looks almost identical. Loud nose blowing from my partner there. So yeah, we got here yesterday, but so we didn't do that much. We went for lunch, had a nap, went for dinner, came home, didn't really do anything else. Swansea's really cool. I've never been here before, but I'm liking the city so far. It's quite nice, and we saw on our wanders last night that they have bikes for hire, like those city bikes for hire. So we're gonna get one, cycle round the bay to the Mumbles, which is like a village kind of connected to Swansea at the other side of the bay, which is supposed to be really nice. So we'll cycle around there, take our swimming costumes, maybe go in the sea, and like just have a wander around, see what it's like down there. I think we're gonna take things pretty chill today. Still feeling fairly tired, so I'll take my book, maybe we'll sit on the beach and read for a bit. And yeah, tomorrow we'll go a bit further abroad because there's lots to see in the Gower peninsula, which is like Swansea's at the entrance to it, and then it sticks out into the Bristol Channel. So yeah, we're gonna go do that today. Hello, so we're not quite at the Mumbles yet. It is over there. We've just stopped for some water. It's a really nice cycle, but it's like 8:30 in the morning and it's already so hot. So it's gonna be fun cycling back a bit later in the day. Yeah, I think we're gonna maybe go for a paddle. We need some sun cream because we lost ours. I don't know, maybe we left it in Hereford. But yeah, we're gonna continue all the way around to the Mumbles now and see what that's like. Hello, so today is Tuesday, our last full day in Wales. I'm halfway through the Moonstone by Wilkie and I'm really enjoying it. So the first half is told from one perspective, and it mentions in the beginning that everyone involved with the story is going to tell their perspective on the story, so you can find out what actually went on. But as it went on for a long time in that one perspective, I thought maybe it wasn't actually going to change. It was just setting up the form of someone like telling you what happened, but it did change, and now there's another perspective, and I really love the way he does characters. I love 19th century novels and the way they do characters in general, but I think he's doing a really good job of setting up these like humorous, comedic, like social satire of these characters, one of whom was a butler, and then this one is like a very worthy Christian woman, but she's really judgmental and really like self-absorbed and egotistical, and yeah, I really think it's done really well, and it's interesting to see all the story from different perspectives, and we're carrying on through the story, so yeah, I'm enjoying it. Hello, so I finished The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, and I enjoyed it. It was a really fun read. My mum is big into detective novels and like dark thrillers and things. This is not that, but she's very much into like crime novels. She reads a lot of thrillers, particularly she reads a lot of like Scandi noir with a hardened alcoholic detective. It's like her jam, which is not my jam at all. I don't really read thrillers. I don't love them in the way that she does, but I do enjoy a detective novel. My mum got me into Poirot and other Agatha Christie, and so it's fun to read this, which is one of the like earlier versions of that, 1868, and I would say so that makes it earlier than Sherlock Holmes as well, which is more like 1890s, I think. And it does feel more, for me, it feels more Sherlock Holmesy than Poirot-y. I think the mystery feels more Sherlock Holmesy, but the humour feels more Poirot-y. So I enjoyed that. It's quite funny, and I enjoyed that there's like multiple different narrators and they're all kind of sent up, sort of archetypes from a Victorian novel. So we've got the butler who's very serious and takes himself very seriously but is very silly to everyone else. He's kind of just an old bloke, and he really believes in his family that he's working for, and won't say anything bad about them, but we can kind of see around his perspective to see what's actually going on. And he's also like an old sexist man and is
like classist and everything, but we can see it's being used in a humorous way. And then the next one's this woman who's like a Christian, who's trying to convert everyone that she meets, and she's convinced of her own virtuosity, and we see how she's blinded by her like fancying this other bloke as well. And then we move through various different perspectives. The mystery itself is not really solvable. Like, it's not one of those whodunits where you can kind of work out whodunit, because there's loads of random like twists that are pulled out at the end, and I didn't really love the conclusion of it. Like, it happened really rapidly and right up to the last moment, and I didn't love that. But it was good fun. It was just a good fun read, and I enjoyed getting back into a kind of Victorian or earlier detective novel, because that is something that I do enjoy, and I think maybe it will encourage me to read more Poirots, and also maybe The Woman in White, which I think is Wilkie Collins's other most famous novel.
But we're going to go to some beaches today, and I will show you them, take you along with me.
I am halfway through The Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe, and it took to page like 272 for the actual plot to begin. I mean, everything was being set up before that, but I think that this book does have a plot. It involves, there's a hit and run accident, and we are following a broker from Wall Street and a DA's office lawyer, prosecutor, and a journalist, a British journalist living in New York, and this is set in 1987, and we're following those different perspectives that kind of come together because of this hit and run incident, and so we're very much inside the psyche of these three different men, and I think that it's a send-up, a satire of that time period and the kind of the culture of these three different types of workplace, of the brokers who do nothing and make money, and the prosecutor, the DA, like this opinion he has of himself, and how it's like the leading to injustice happening, and then also the journalist who is like not really that interested, just out to make a name for himself. And I think that it's quite well done. All of these characters are vile, like really slimy, vile, disgusting characters. A lot of sexism, a lot of like every single character's race is talked about and commented on. Particularly by the DA guy, there's a lot of like stereotypes that he puts forth. Like there's this Irish detective that he's working with, and I'm assuming he means Irish American rather than Irish, and he talks about like Irish machismo and how he wishes he was Irish because he could start a fight well, and like he talks about nut time about him like shooting shamrock lasers from his eyes, and I'm like, it's that extreme with every single stereotypes. There's a lot of talk about Jewish people and black people as well that is very like offensive, but I don't think it makes the book offensive. It's like we're from the perspective of these horrible characters. I don't think you're supposed to like any of them. The writing itself is interesting. There was one quote that I wrote down because I really liked it. On the plastic bench across from him sat a bony old man who seemed to be growing like a fungus out of a backdrop of graffiti. It's very like thick with description, but in quite a plain way. I think the writing that it reminds me the most of, which will seem a bit bizarre, is George R.R. Martin and the Song of Ice and Fire books, because it is like really heavily descriptive, but he's just stating what everything is. Like that was the one I read was quite like liked the way of the description and the metaphor, or was a simile, growing like a fungus. But a lot of the time he's just literally describing everything, and like describing how much things cost when he's in the broker's perspective and things like that, but like literally line by line everything is being described. And so that's why it's so thick, like, because I know the colour of every wall and everything everyone's eaten and what everyone is wearing and how much that cost. So that's kind of why there's so much detail in here. I think that whilst there is a plot, as I was saying, it's kind of building this time period and this setting really vividly. It's very, very visual. I think it would make a good film, because I feel like the plot, despite it being so huge, the amount of plot there is in here is actually quite small. So you could portray with visual details the things that are being described, and I can see it working really well. It's very 80s. Like there are no real female characters in here that are given any substance, but I feel like for me, I'm not that bothered by it, because we are from the perspective of these like vile men, and the way that they view women is kind of part of their vileness. So yeah, I don't think it's that important that the female characters are underdeveloped. So yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it. It's kind of a slog at the same time. There's a lot of it, and it does get a little like repetitive, and it's very of its time, as I was saying, but it is still a really readable book, like quite a page turner, which again is not something that I read that often. So I am back from Wales now, back home, as you can see, and I have now started The Crow Road by Iain Banks, which I left upstairs so I don't have to hold up. But I've gone into these books quite blind as to the plot, and also I interviewed my mum about these like months ago, so I don't remember what she said at all. But this is about a family in Scotland, and we're kind of flitting through different time periods. So there's a time period when these brother and sisters who are children during the Second World War, and then there's a time period when these brothers and sisters again are middle-aged and their children are young children, and then there's the final perspective where these children are now in their early 20s, and so those are the like 3 different timelines, and it kind of flows in and out of these very quickly. And it starts with the line like, it was the day that my grandmother exploded, because it's a funeral and they're cremating the grandmother, but they don't remove the pacemaker, so she explodes. And yeah, that's kind of the tone. It's I'm really loving the writing of this so far. I really think it's really beautifully written, really evocative, and it's got a really strong voice, which I like. I enjoy the like flowing backwards and forwards. So far, we're just exploring this family and the relationships between the people. So we have the brothers and sisters, and then we have the cousins in the more modern time period. And yeah, I'm not really sure where the plot's going to go. I'm only like 20% of the way into it so far, but I am enjoying it. Today I think I'm just going to read, basically, and probably hopefully finish both of the books that I'm still reading today or tomorrow. It's going to be 37 degrees Sunday, Monday and Tuesday here, so we are also trying to prep for that, because we're not built for 37 degrees in this country, and I'm personally not built for 37 degrees either. So I'm going to go stock up on some ice and food that means that we don't have to turn the oven on. And maybe a paddling pool. Maybe I'll work in the garden on Monday. We'll see. We'll see if it's too hot to get out there. Hello, it is several days later now. I haven't been doing as much as I was doing earlier in the vlog. I've just been in my house doing like stuff around the house. I have finished both The Bonfire of the Vanities and The Crow Road, so I'm here to talk to you about both of these books. We'll start with Bonfire of the Vanities. So this book is, as I said, a satire of Wall Street and of the justice system in New York in the late 80s, of a very kind of masculine world, macho and dominated by those ideas, and that kind of toxic masculinity of power is satirised in this book. So there is a lot of like vulgar things said about women, and there is just constant talk about race and about ethnicity as well, because white ethnicity, Jewish, Italian and Irish are all brought up, and everything is completely like stereotypes. So there are lots of very like harmful stereotypes talked about in here, but I wouldn't say they are perpetuated by the book because, as I said, it's a satire. But I couldn't believe how like every single person who's introduced, their like ethnicity is speculated about, and it felt very bizarre, because it's not the way that I think people talk, but possibly it is true to 1980s New York, which is obviously before I was born and a place I've never been to, so I can't like say that it's not accurate, but it was quite jarring, that aspect of it. Like I was saying earlier, there's lots of really intense detailed description of everything in this book. If you want a book where you can really, you know exactly what the author is trying to describe, like you know exactly what all of the places look like because he's described every square inch of them, then I think this would work for you. And that is why it is so big, because there isn't a huge amount of plot in it. I mean, there is plot, there is definitely something going on, but like I said, the plot doesn't really get going for 200 pages, and it keeps going right up until the end, but it does have a lot of lulls in it, because the momentum is lost by that constant description, because it's much more about a time and a place than it is about the plot. The plot is like a framework to hang the satire on, rather than the driving momentum of the book. I enjoyed it overall. It's quite like a trashy read, I think, like my mum said in her description of it, but it's a fun one. That lots of description meant that I felt like this could have been edited. Like, it's over 700 pages, and I think even 500 pages would have been a lot for what the actual plot is, so I feel like it could have been cut down. I don't know if that's because I'm reading it in a compressed time period. Maybe if I was spreading it out I would have enjoyed that more. You can tell that Tom Wolfe is a journalist, because it does feel written in that kind of first person narrative journalism, where people really get into a certain subculture of wry arch tone, and like I said, all of those real specific details feel very journalistic as well. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not like my new favourite book or anything, but it was a fun read, and interesting to read something from the 80s, because I don't think I read a lot of fiction from that time. Like, I've also finished The Crow Road, and I think I didn't really talk to you about this one that much whilst I was reading it, but this is about a Scottish family I can't remember where they are in Scotland. I think they're in the Highlands, the 40s, 70s and 90s, so over 3 different time periods, and it's this family, and there are 3 brothers in the 40s, and then there are 3 brothers again in the 70s, and we see the first set of brothers when they are sort of teenagers and children, and then the second set of brothers when they're teenagers and children, and the first set are adults. We see the second set of brothers when they are adults, and the first set of brothers when they are like old men, and so it goes through several decades of the experience of this family, and we know from fairly early on that one of the brothers from the first set of brothers has gone missing, and that's kind of a mystery that pervades throughout the book, that comes into and out of importance. Tragedy that happens in this book, but it's dealt with in quite a humorous way. This is quite a funny book, darkly comic, which is something that I really enjoy in books. And it is also Prentice Mahone is kind of our main character of this book. So whilst we see things from the perspective of multiple different characters, his is the only perspective that is told in the first person. All of the other perspectives are in third person, and this book is about telling stories and about the ideas we have of ourselves, and the ways that other people perceive us and how those things can differ, which was actually also true of Bonfire of the Vanities. We see multiple different perspectives, and we see people from each other's perspectives, and the Moonstone as well also had lots of different perspectives and seeing people from others' perspectives. So that seems to be a through line in these 3 books, but this one was about stories. So we have the brother who's gone missing was made famous by a travel diary he wrote when he was travelling through India in the 60s and 70s, and then his brother becomes well known for stories that he writes for children. And then on the second set of brothers we have another brother who is really interested in these stories that his missing uncle Rory left behind, and his brother is a stand-up comedian, and we see him tell stories about his family in his stand-up comedy and the way that he alters those stories. So there is a lot about that in here, lots of repetition of stories and seeing them from multiple different perspectives and getting bits of information we missed. It moves throughout time and throughout perspective with no warning. It just kind of jumps about, and that kind of adds to that mystery, because we don't know what's gone on, and you don't necessarily know whose perspective you've slipped into. You kind of have to work that out as you go along, and I enjoyed that. I thought the writing of this was really excellent. Like I said, quite humorous, but really beautiful as well, and it talks about politics in a way that I enjoyed. I can be a bit hit and miss about politics in books, because I feel like sometimes it can feel didactic, but this felt very much like this was the characters' perspectives and they were just talking the way that they talk about politics, rather than it being the author telling it to you, which is what I much prefer. Yeah, I thought all of the characters were really well realised. This book is kind of both a mystery and a coming of age. Those two things go alongside one another, because Prentice's story is the only one that's kind of told chronologically, from him as a teenager through to him finishing his degree, and we see how the other thing that's a real big theme of this is brotherhood, because like I said, we have those three brothers and then we have the other three brothers, and it's their relationships and their relationships as father and son and uncle and son that are a big part of the story. And we see repetitions in the family cycle as well, like familial jealousy and the disagreements between brothers, and I thought it was really wonderful, subtle, really well told as a story. I found it really engaging, and it's one of my favourite books that I've read this year, so I'm really glad that I read it. I enjoyed all three of these books. My mum did give me a massive list of other books to read that she loved, so maybe I will do this again with some other books of hers that she loved, but I did enjoy all three of them. I would say Bonfire of the Vanities was probably my least favourite, because I felt like it was a bit of a slog to get through, and maybe won't stick with me that well. Then the Moonstone was kind of, both of these were fun, more fun reads, and I really enjoyed getting back into like a classic detective novel. So I think if you're into that sort of thing, if you're into Sherlock Holmes, that kind of thing, I think you would enjoy Wilkie Collins. And then The Crow Road is just a genuinely really good book, and I really think I would recommend it to everyone. It's exactly my style of book. The other book that it reminded me of is The Promise by Damon Galgut. Not quite so clever in terms of the writing, but it definitely has that kind of overtone, that dark humour, and a wide cast of interesting family characters, which is something that I've talked about a lot, as I like in books. I feel like I might have to make a video of dysfunctional families in fiction that I love, so maybe that one will be coming out in the future. But I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I will put another couple of videos here, another vlog maybe, that I think you would like if you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you again very soon. Subscribe. I put out new videos twice a week most of the time, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye!